The devil has been hunted down, captured and exhibited.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
America overcame Saddam Hussein. The tyrant is dethroned. Iraq celebrates and the world is freed from evil. That is the legend. But 40 years of relations between Saddam Hussein and the United States tell a whole other story.
They were strange bedfellows. But they were bedfellows, there was a marriage of convenience.
They exaggerated, they lied, they made believe.
It is the story of a man and a superpower who used one another.
He was regarded as a more dependable, reliable Arab tyrant with whom we could deal.
إنما بدرت أمور في الفترة الأخيرة كانت تدل بوضوح على أن التنسيق ما زال قائما.
We would have preferred somebody who wasn't so crazy, but you work with what you have.
A story of intertwining ambitions, shared cynicism, and mutual mistrust.
أمريكا كانت تستغل أخطاء صدام وتستفاد منها.
Was it a faultless friendship where we said anything goes? No.
From his first steps towards power to his final fall, Saddam Hussein saw 9 American presidents come and go.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute.
America sought to be the uncontested guardian of the Middle East. Saddam saw himself as master of the Arabs.
I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear.
But they had more in common than a mere hunger for power.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
As far back as this story goes, Saddam and the United States were a necessary evil for each other.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
This is the story of a tragic misalliance. When Saddam Hussein had this film made, he wanted to immortalize his first exploits. In 1959, he was 20 years old and attempted to assassinate the Iraqi president, General Hussain. He was a member of the Ba'ath Party, a clandestine socialist Arab resurrection movement. The attempt failed, and wounded in the leg, Saddam sought refuge in Damascus and Cairo.
I used to be in Cairo doing my studies in law, and we were told that a group of Iraqis, about 10, are arriving that day from Damascus. Yes, that was the first time when we met. Mr. Saddam Hussein stayed with me for about 3 or 4 nights, and then he left into a villa which he stayed with some of his friends. He was an ordinary member of the Ba'ath Party. He was not in a leading position, but I liked him at that period because he was calm. He didn't speak too much.
Saddam Hussein and was 1 or 2 of a small gangsters whom the founder of the Ba'ath Party despised. But some officers looked on him as someone who can actually get rid of the enemies doing the dirty work.
And when we talked together, I noticed that he was honest, and politically speaking, he was clever and determined, but on the intellectual level, one cannot consider him as a profound thinker at that period.
And it was during this period of exile in Cairo in the early 1960s that he, like a number of other of his colleagues in the Ba'ath, became an informal operative for the CIA.
And there is a clear record that young Saddam did pay the American embassy in Cairo a number of visits during this period.
Saddam's links with the Americans in Egypt are shrouded in mystery, but it is certain that their interests converged. The communists were common enemies. The Cold War was raging, and the Middle East at that time was one of the fronts. Far from Cairo, Baghdad was in a state of siege. It was the 8th of February, 1963.
On 8:30, actually, my mother told me, at that time I was having my bath, I was in the bathroom, okay, and my mother told me, well, there is a coup, there is a coup.
General Qassem was targeted once more. Immensely popular for having freed Iraq of the monarchy and of British influence, he had sided with the communists. Against him were nationalist officers and Ba'ath militants. 4 years after their failed attempt, Saddam Hussein's comrades in arms tried their luck once more.
Early morning of the revolution against Qassem, there was many things, many places we should control it. For example, the bridges in Baghdad, the oil station, the radio stations, and the fighting continued for 3 days.
We communists and many other people were expecting that something might happen. And we thought that we can face it, we can oppose it.
They were wrong, and the putsch succeeded. Qassem was captured and transferred to the television studios.
وعند دخوله إلى الاستوديو أحد الواقفين بالخارج ضربه على رأسه. الموجودين معظمهم قالوا يجب أن يعدم الآن لأن الشيوعيين الآن في مناطق عدة من بغداد يقاومون، فإذا بقى على قيد الحياة ستستمر المقاومة الشيوعية، ولكن إذا أعدم الآن وأعلن إعدامه من شاشة التلفزيون ستنتهي مقاومة الشيوعيين. فأخذوا بهذا الرأي، وبعد 5 دقائق سمعنا صوت الرصاص وانتهى عبد الكريم قاسم قتل في ذلك اليوم.
Qassem and his companions were executed and paraded on national television.
Well, I was at home. I was looking at television. There was one broadcasting station in television. We had this on. We had the radio on. We wanted to get all the news. And when they had the picture of Qassem being dead, being killed, this is very important for them. It was repeated over and over again.
The Baathists were delighted, as were Washington and the CIA. As an ally of Moscow, Qassem had been on their hit list.
A friend of mine, he was working in the American embassy, said that the American ambassador was so tense, so when he was walking all around the embassy, and when he was opening the radio, and when he heard about the coup, he opened a champagne bottle and asked all the staff to celebrate the coup.
Personally, I considered it a real triumph for the CIA. They didn't have very many of them, and there were a lot of coup attempts that had gone sour, but this one worked, and it was for a good cause. I think it was a very good thing that happened.
There was a major CIA involvement in the 1963 coup, and arms were flown clandestinely from Turkey. A lot of money, a lot of financial support. CIA planning was involved in the early stages of the coup. Now, the Ba'ath was extremely eager, of course, to take power, but they did need the American help.
With the elimination of Qassem, it was open season on communists. The CIA has been accused of supplying lists of the activists to eradicate. The American authorities have always denied this.
The fact that there'd been an enormously bloody put-down of the communists in Baghdad was surely welcome news in Washington. The